Hello, welcome to another episode of Gull-Mouth Action Podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at Brighton and Hove Albion, Crawley Town and Sporting Sussex. But this week we're focusing purely on Brighton. I'm Mark Dunford, and I'm this week joined by Brighton and Hove Albion writers Sam Morton and Richie Mills, and columnist, lifelong Brighton fan and all-round legend Ian Hart. The Seagulls have so far enjoyed a dream debut European campaign, topping their Europa League group ahead of European heavyweights Marseille, Ajax and AEK Athens. I don't think we can call them heavyweights, but Albion secured the top spot courtesy of a late Joao Pedro strike against Marseille to send Roberto De Zerbi's charges into the last 16. We'll look back at a memorable Europa League campaign so far for Brighton and reflect on all the latest Albion action in the Premier League. You can read all the stories we are talking about with videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Check out other great videos on Shots TV and Freeview Channel 276. And you may also be watching this on Latest TV. So thank you for tuning in if you are watching it on Latest TV. So Joao Pedro's 88th minute strike saw Brighton beat Marseille 1-0 in front of a raucous Amex crowd to leapfrog their French opponents and finish first in Group B. You were there, Sam. Can you sum that game up for us?
It was incredible, really. It was one of the games of the season for Brighton. It was a strange one because obviously they were already qualified going into it. They knew that they're already through to the next round of the Europa League. But the game basically decided whether they would go into a knockout round or a playoff round or straight through to the round of 16. And they knew that Marseille only needed a point. So the onus was on Brighton to get the 3 points to go back to the top of the group. And they definitely were the better team and that they had all the possession, most of the chances, but they were made to wait until right at the end of the game when Joao Pedro scored. It was a superb goal, really, really good finish. And it
was a great finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fantastic. And the crowd went absolutely crazy. I've never seen a reaction like it at the Amex. I think it was really up there with one of the all-time moments, I think, in the Amex. And fans have definitely compared it with some of the best moments. And I think that is the best one since Alexis McAllister's last second penalty against Man United last season. I think in the 8th minute of injury time. So it was an excellent moment, put Brighton to the top of the group. And it's so important when you think the number of games that Brighton have had this season and the injuries they've had. I think just to be able to play 2 fewer games in the new year is just a real bonus. And to go straight through to the round of 16 is incredible and just a new chapter in the crazy story of Brighton in the last few years.
Absolutely. Post-match, Joao Pedro said scoring the winner was the best moment of his life, while RDZ admitted the Marseille result was the best moment in his time at the Seagulls. Where does this performance rank among Albion's and RDZ's best at Brighton, Richie?
Well, I think it's got to be right up there. I think from sort of, first minute to last, I think there are games where Brighton have probably played better during De Zerbi's tenure. The one that kind of stands out for me was Brighton's 3-0 win against Arsenal last season at the Emirates to sort of crush their faltering Premier League title hopes. But I mean, in terms of just coming up with the goods when they really needed it, Joao Pedro, 30 million is not cheap, but he's definitely making it seem as if it's a very good, worthwhile purchase. I think they weren't sort of clicking in all areas. I think, Matoma's still maybe not quite at his best. Adingra, although he's sort of getting into good position, sometimes his final ball wasn't quite there. Pascal Gross is still playing fantastically well. Although he didn't obviously miss a bit of a big chance on the weekend, but we'll come to that, I'm sure. Obviously Brighton have got lots of injuries, but I think if you sort of weigh up all the fact that they're playing, midweek weekend, they've got a lot of injuries. This is sort of uncharted territory for them. If you sort of put that all into the mix, then it is definitely one of the sort of the most, standout wins from his tenure. And, with the fact that they have got sort of a threadbare squad, and I think this weekend De Zerbi joked that he might have to play Jason Steele at right back after Joel Veltman's injury. For them not to have to do another 2 legs against a Champions League time, team.
Yeah, so important.
That's a big boost. So, I think better performances, but a really monumental result.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Harty, you've been in Dreamland, haven't you? I think you've attended all the group stage games, haven't you? What has the
all of the
been? Sorry.
Hello. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So, what has the experience been like as a Brighton fan, and what have been your highlights of a memorable campaign so far?
Well, it's been superb. Just want to pick you up. You said AEK. You wouldn't call them European giants. They were the only people that beat us in
Yeah,
in the
but
group.
not giants, though, are they?
When you think it's the greatest, one of the greatest, got to be one of the comebacks in European club football. 110 minutes into our European campaign, we'd lost at home to AEK and we're 2-0 down against Marseille. To come back from that and win the group is absolutely dreamland.
Yeah,
I've had a few. I've had quite a mixed bag on my travels. I famously missed the first 35 minutes in Marseille because our got delayed. I got headbutted in Amsterdam and tear gassed in Athens. So I'm going to draw to see what's happened to me next. But the thing that got me about Thursday, it was, and 50 years, it was one of the great nights. And just before we came on air, you gents were talking about theatre trips and going up to see Back to the Future and Book of Mormon and whatever, and Jersey Boys. Now, any theatre goer, would they leave 10 minutes before the end? But why
Absolutely
do I
not.
see people leaving the Albion at 86 minutes, even earlier than that? And then now they've missed out. They must be absolutely devastated because they have missed out. I've got to put my hands up. I have only left early once in 50 years at an Albion home game. We were playing Sudbury in the FA Cup replay in 1996. And we were 0-0. And we could still be playing now and we wouldn't have scored. And I knew, because my wife was out working and I had a babysitter who had exams, I knew I was wasting my time and that of the time of my babysitter. So I left at 90 minutes before extra time and we lost on penalties. But I was watching people on, Thursday night leaving at 0-0. Yeah, we rode our luck. They hit the woodwork a couple of times. But we know the footballing gods smile on the Albion when it really matters. I knew that goal was coming. I think Pedro, I don't want to do Evan Ferguson a disservice now, but we can wax lyrical about him as much as we want. Pedro is the better player and will always be the better player. In 3 years' time, when there's a World Cup in America, Canada, Mexico, and wherever else they're going, the Republic of Ireland might be there and Ferguson might be up front for the Republic of Ireland. He probably will be up front for them, whether they're there or not. Pedro will be the number 9 for Brazil. One of the best teams in the world. That's how good this boy is. Luther Blissett told Paul Camerlin and the boys at the club last summer, you don't realise what you've got for your money. You have got a world-class player in the making. And so Pedro really excites me. So, when he jumped into the crowd, that's the stuff of dreams. I know the stewards and the health and safety executive going mad, aren't they? Did he get booked? Because I was still on a high. He
got booked. Yeah, he did.
He did get booked. But why is he getting booked? We just won a European group. He's just scored a wonder goal at home. He's just given us the greatest ending to a group stage. And we get a card. Absolutely mad. But it has been a great experience. Probably the squad isn't quite big enough to cope with all these injuries. We've had this European hangover, haven't we? I don't think, have we not won a game after Europe? Have we not won a game after Europe?
You beat Sheffield United, didn't they? Was that the one that they did?
As a draw.
We didn't beat
draw against Sheffield United.
Oh, shut up.
We drew 1-1, Mark. This is the whole point. We dropped points against Fulham Sheffield United, and we drawn with Burnley. Now that wasn't after Europe, to be fair. So I just think, look, we've got to go with the positives. We're now seeded. I don't actually fear any team in this competition because with the manager that we've got and the players we've got when they're fit and on their day, I think we can beat anyone. I'm telling you this on the 18th of December. I think we can win this competition. And I think we have a manager who is focused, and I think he's got it in his locker. Imagine us winning a European competition. Crazy, isn't it?
It'll be incredible. It'll be absolutely incredible. On that point, obviously, you've avoided the playoff. You go straight into the last 16, and there's the likes of Rangers, Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen, Villarreal. They all top their respective groups, but you got like the likes of AC Milan and Benfica dropping down from the Champions League. Yeah. It's not until February the draw, is it? So who would you fancy in the next round? Where do you want to go?
Bearing in mind my misfortune on the road so far with my aforementioned incidents, I don't want to go to Galatasaray because I'm not sure I'd come back. But no, look, let's do a Milan. Let's do Benfica. Yeah, I did say that I wouldn't mind, and you have to be careful when you say this, going to Young Boys or Salzburg or something like that, something a bit refined. Castles and cathedrals, something, because we have been, the old velvet bag has thrown us up 3 places that, in places, the cities that we visited have been welcoming. Parts of Amsterdam, very welcoming. But we've also had 3 sets of supporters that were somewhat robust. And that's the nicest way of putting it.
Very diplomatic. Yeah.
I don't, when they bust us back from Marseille, every stop we came to, every set of traffic lights or junction, there was a Marseille local, in inverted commas, threatening to slit my throat, which I thought was very consistent, wasn't it? Because there wasn't a traffic stop that didn't happen there. But look, it is what it is. If we want to win it, we have to draw. We have to play who we draw. We can't play anybody from our own country till the last 8, can we?
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And but being that, because both West Ham and Liverpool and Rangers are all seeded anyway. I think it's good with the seeding that we have the home leg second. But look, let's just embrace it. Let's just enjoy it. How does it work? Because you boys are a lot younger than me and you're well read. If we sign anybody in the transfer window, if they haven't played in Europe, they can play, can't they?
Who wants to answer that?
So I think unless they've already played, they won't be.
But that's in all competitions. So if they played in the conference, either the Champions League or our cup comp, they're all cup tied.
I believe you can register players again in January. So, for example, Jakob Moder's wasn't in the European squad for the first half of the season. But I think in January you can sort of refresh your 25-man Premier League squad and the other cup competitions. So there could be a bit of a rejig.
Well, if that's so, then Uncle Tony, a Christmas list to you. Can you go and sign Conor Gallagher, please? Because he's not cup tied. And
no, fair enough, yeah.
And my Amy used to work with his auntie on British Airways, and he's mates with Billy Gilmore, and he loves the South Coast. So it's all synergy, and it's all working into one. Connor, come and join us. We'll forget the Palace loan thing. That we will never speak of that again. But come and join us.
Richie, what do you think of that?
Whoa. I don't know. There's going to be, I think, more time might need to have passed for there to be that synergy that you talk of. I'm not sure if that will go down too well.
He got a lot of abuse only last week, didn't he, at Stamford Bridge when he got sent off? I think the Brighton fans definitely gave him an earful. Yeah. So been interesting.
Well, look, time is a great healer. He's a quality player, isn't he? And we do. In all seriousness, with this squad, and we've learned the lessons of the Thursday, Sunday. Although sometimes it's about taking your chances. So the injuries have hurt us. we need 2 quality sides in the transfer window. A statement of intent, because we've now got. We're not going to win. I'm going to upset a lot of people. We're not going to win the Premier League this year. I think that's gone. But we still have now 2 competitions in the FA Cup and the Europa League that we could win if the squad is strong enough and stays injury free. So I think with that in mind, 2 big signings, a statement of intent. And Richie, I've got to take issue with you. Football fans, a bit like goldfish. Sometimes they have long memories, sometimes they don't. If he comes in for us and hits the ground running and links up with wee Billy Gilmore, who is turning out to be a quality player, people will forget. We forgot when Glenn had his sabbatical at Selhurst Park, didn't we? You know, one of our heroes. Banging in.
I think he had a bit of money in the bank though beforehand. He'd sort of earned his stripes.
Yeah. But look,
it's a fair point.
It'll be interesting. But just out of interest, Richie, and I won't hold you to it. If we could have 2 quality signings, can you see anybody out there that would fit into our team? You know how it works.
It's a good question. I'm not going to avoid the question, but I am going to say that
this is like Michelle Moan.
De Zerbi has basically said that the starting 11 isn't as good as it was last season because they lost Caicedo, McAllister, and Colwell. And I do feel that generally the midfield is an area that in last season was sort of dominating teams. Yeah, that sort of pivot of McAllister and Caicedo was just so potent. And I feel they've lost that edge. So I do feel that if they can, I completely agree. I do feel that if they can sign a real enforcer in midfield and maybe a bit more of a creative attacking midfielder, just to help unlock defenses sometimes when they put every man behind the ball. I think
sort of like a Conor Gallagher type, yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think they need to build the midfield around Billy Gilmore though. I think Billy Gilmore's been exceptional, and he's only getting better and better every game. I think that game against Marseille, he was by far the best I've ever seen him. He was probably a 10 out of 10 performance from him. Really, he was exceptional. I think it was 2 nutmegs, about 4 tackles in the box, and he's brilliant.
Absolutely, and he's the unsung hero. He's the unsung hero of it all. But it's about blending in. It's about your surroundings. Where does he live? Worthing. That's all we need to say. He's a Worthing boy.
Excellent. Right, went off topic a little bit there, but yeah, good discussion. Quickly, Sam, who would you like to see him get in the next round?
I think AC Milan would be a great one. AC Milan or Roma, one of those 2.
Oh, get Mourinho. Love it. Yeah, absolutely. And Richie?
I think I've seen online some Brighton fans dreading the prospect of Galatasaray and Wilfried Zaha knocking them out.
That'd be a nightmare.
On the flip side, it would be funny to maybe get one back on him. But yeah, I think sort of the going to like the San Siro, that would be pretty epic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Before Brighton's heroics at Marseille, they were held to a 1-1 draw by a relegation threatened Burnley, thanks in no small part to a sensational goalkeeping performance from Claret's keeper, James Trafford. Sam, what was that game like? It seems like a long time ago now.
It does, yeah. It was a frustrating game. I think it's one of those where Brighton have kind of deja vu, really. They've had it against Fulham, Sheffield United, Burnley. I think it's one of those games where they're expected to win. They've come in on the back of a European game, and they've not been firing on all cylinders. And I think against Burnley, I suppose it was slightly different because they had lots of shots on goal, but James Trafford, as you say, was exceptional and was saving everything. And then Burnley took the lead for a deflected strike, and you kind of fear the worst at that point. It's just history repeating itself, and Brighton not putting the chances away and really just taking the game away from Burnley when they had the chances. But thankfully, they did get a point, and Simon Adingra scored a cracking header from a Pascal Gross cross, which is an excellent cross, and it was a really nice goal. And I think definitely the least Brighton deserved from the game. Really, it was frustrating that they didn't get the win, but as long as they didn't lose and they kept that run going of scoring, obviously it was eventually ended at Arsenal, but they managed to score another Premier League game and kept that run going. And I think De Zerbi did say at the end of the game that they're not going to be a top team until they win these type of games, and he's not going to be a top manager until they win these type of games. And obviously, it was probably said in the heat of the moment, but you can kind of see where he's coming from. Really, I think Brighton, they need to find that balance, I guess, and it's difficult with all the injuries they've got, and they're never able to play one solid team week in, week out, and that's just something completely out of their hands. But I think, as time goes on and they get more used to playing in the European games, you'd hope that it's not going to be a one-off, that you'd hope they get used to it and be able to follow that up with a good performance in the league as well.
Yeah. Richie, Sam touched on De Zerbi's comments after the game about not being a top team, not being a top coach. Do you think they were heat at the moment, or do you think they have still got a way to go, both him and the team?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, because I do personally feel that he is definitely one of the best managers in the Premier League, and unfortunately, I do think one day a so-called top club will come in and probably try to pinch him. But yeah, I mean, personally, his hands are tied a lot by the fact that he's having to. I mean, if you look at the bench, it's just full of under 21 players. So there's only so much you can do, but they're sort of generally seen as, I think, two schools of thought on how to sort of get at a Brighton team. One is to do what Arsenal did with a crazy high pressing, very efficient, organised attack, or the other one is to sort of, maybe the worst example last season was Everton at home and the 5-1 loss, I think, when you just sit back and you hit them on the transition. So those sort of weaknesses are always going to be there in De Zerbi's style of play, and I don't know if you can completely iron them out, because we've also seen on the flip side how they're able to draw in, sort of entice a pressing team in and then outmaneuver them, and then they have an overload, and then they can score goals the other way. So no, I guess sort of tactical system is perfect. They're all going to have flaws. Maybe over time he might be able to find ways around that, but I do think the fact that there are missing key personnel, is making that harder for them. So while I do think he is a very, very good coach, maybe he's not like an elite coach, so the very, very best. But I think maybe he's being a bit harsh on himself. But it is frustrating for Brighton fans and co, that they are struggling. There's sort of a pattern where they can't seemingly put away these teams like Sheffield United, like a Burnley, like a Fulham, where they had the chance to do it and then they just couldn't put them away. And again, I think there's a number of factors why that. So there's my waffling answer.
Do you think Brighton are going to struggle to keep hold of De Zerbi at the end of the season? Hi.
I'm not sure about the end of the season. I think he will have a game plan where he'll want to win a trophy. We all want him to win a trophy. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think in time one of the bigger clubs will come calling. Although it would have to be a hell of an offer. I think maybe he'll play the long game and go for the Pep job when Pep goes, or perhaps when Jurgen Klopp finally hangs his hat up and leaves Liverpool. I don't know. I think there's probably only two clubs that he'd leave Brighton for now in the Premier League. My big concern is one of the big Italian clubs, because he's a proud Italian. Yeah. So if the likes of Inter or AC or Juventus or someone like that comes calling, I'm not. So who knows? We've just got to embrace it. We talk about those three games: Sheffield United, Fulham, and Burnley. I put in the column last week, we have 58 shots on goal in those three games. 58 shots on goal. I'm old enough to remember when we didn't do that in a season. So we've got 3 games there. So that's how we have to. We have to realise how lucky we are, and we have to embrace it. But the good thing is, the recruitment cogs, all of the wheels, they've probably got someone lined up already if he does leave, or someone in mind. So just so long as it's not Agent Potter. because he's got a job to do at Manchester United. Because if Agent Potter goes to Manchester United, that frees up one European place. We know that, doesn't it? So that's good.
Yeah.
Come on, Jim Ratcliffe, do your stuff. So look, let's just enjoy it while we got it. I know I do apologise that we went a little bit off piste, but we do need 2 quality signings, and I think the second half of the season's going to be really exciting because we've got 2 iconic trophies that we can go for, and it's going to take a good team to knock us out of either competition. He says before the 3rd round exit to Stoke.
Excellent. Quickly looking at the Arsenal game, Sam. That was it was pretty dominant. They got what they deserved, didn't they, at Arsenal?
Yeah, I think exactly that. Really, Arsenal were brilliant. I think they definitely had kind of those ghosts of the past to kind of make amends for. Really, I think it's obviously Brighton had won 3 on the bounce at the Emirates, and Arsenal definitely wanted to put that right, and they were on top from minute 1, to be honest, and they should have been leading at half time. But you have to give Brighton credit for the way they defended. It was superb, really. Lewis Dunk and Jan-Paul van Hecker especially were phenomenal, really, defensively. They were just throwing their bodies at everything, defending everything. And it was just a shame that it was Van Hecker that it was his defensive header that ended up at the back post for Jesus to put it in unmarked. And it was an unfortunate way to concede when they defended so well that they then conceded such a sloppy goal. And it all came from Bart Verbruggen's kick straight to Declan Rice. And Van Hecker did stop it from being a goal, but it went out for the corner that did result in the goal. So a frustrating way to concede after they defended so well for so long. But it was probably the least that Arsenal deserved. And Brighton then did have some chances. I think they could have nicked a point completely against a run of play with Pascal Gross in the second half. And he should have scored, really, especially for a man of his quality, from Matoma's cross. But I think De Zerbi touched on it at the end of the game that it would have been quite an unfair result if Brighton had nicked a point. But I think he's going to be pleased that they did hang on in there, basically, and could have nicked a point on another day. And that's all because of how well they did defend. And it really was backs to the wall kind of stuff. And Arsenal did obviously seal the win through Kai Havertz. And it was, as I say, a really deserved win for Arsenal. And the first time Brighton had failed to score all season. And that's crazy in itself, really. And probably it was only a matter of time before that run came to an end, you'd kind of say. But I think De Zerbi said after the game that it's very unlike Brighton to be completely nullified. They barely had the ball, which is completely unlike Brighton, and they suffered a lot in the game. And De Zerbi did say that could be a positive going forward. They maybe showed a different side we've not seen before, where they've not had any of the ball, but they've just had to sit back and defend and try and hit teams on the break. So on another day, that could have worked. As I say, Arsenal did obviously get over the line, but it was very close to being a very snatch and grab like draw if Pascal Gross would have scored.
Yeah. I've had to cut a few questions. Sorry, chaps. But hopefully Brighton will be back on scoring this week, Harty, when they take on Palace at Selhurst Park.
Can't wait.
At the moment.
Can't wait.
You can't wait. Are these kind of games you really look forward to, yeah?
The Palace game, when the fixtures come out, the Palace game is the first fixture you look at, home and away. It's the one. It's because it's an emotive. I went to the Legends lunch on Friday, and Alan Mullery was talking about the rivalry with Venables in the 70s with Brighton Palace. It is the game we all look forward to. There's been peaks and troughs. I mean, when in our dark days, which you three, as I said, you're a few years younger than me. Palace, via the fanzine that I used to write, Goals Eye, they sent us notice of termination of the rivalry because they said we weren't good enough. They were going to go and be rivals with Charlton. They actually sent us an official document saying, well, it was a joke, a mocked up.
Yeah.
We don't want to be your rivals anymore because you're not good enough. And it's like little things. And you talk about Zaha, and the goals in the playoff semi-final. When we'd absolutely murdered them at Selhurst Park, and we came back and we were doing silly things like booking buses for Wembley, which we shouldn't have done, and we learnt a very valuable lesson that day, that night. But I really am looking forward to it. It's quite ironic. My my coffin supplier's taking me on Thursday in corporate hospitality. Let's hope it's not a let's hope it's a nail in Roy Hodgson's coffin. No, but there are other coffins available. But no. So look, I'm really looking forward to it, and I do think it is a game that just gets the juices going, because hate is a very strong word, so you shouldn't say that. But we dislike them intensely, and they equally dislike us intensely. But the difference between the clubs is we're in the Hilton Hotel and they're in the Premier Inn. And but I never want them to get relegated, and I never want to send them a cessation of rivalry, because rivalry is what football is about. It's the lifeblood of football. And I never want them to go down. They can finish 17th every season. I don't care. I don't want them to go down, because it's always got to be there. You know, I did say to my Amy, all right, she's brought a Tottenham fan home. He's given me a lovely grandson. I did say to her when she started dating, please never bring a Palace fan home, because it will cause a divide that cannot be healed.
Excellent stuff. Richie, you're going to be there on Thursday night, I think. Palace obviously go into the game after an excellent draw with Man City. Where do you see this game being won or lost for both teams? You're on mute, mate.
Sorry. Yeah. So basically, I did a bit of research beforehand, and sort of which is crazy. So yeah, basically, it seems as if Palace's sort of weaknesses currently are: one, keeping possession of the ball, finishing scoring chances, and defending against attacks down the wings. This is according to the website Who Scored. And so I guess, you know, currently, sort of, if you think about that, defending against attacks down the wings, Matoma, when he's on form, lethal. Adunga's also had a very good start to life at Brighton. So hopefully that's two focal points right there who can, you know, cause them all sorts of trouble. I think going by, you know, Palace under Roy, they're not the most aggressive team. So I do think that it might be a case of sitting back and then trying to counter-attack. What will be interesting to see is if Eze, who's a very good player for Palace, will be fit. I know he's been sort of in and out with injuries this season. I know Elise is back, and obviously he scored that equalising goal against City. But I think the two of them together are very, very potent, and I feel they're not as strong without both. So I feel, yeah, that if Brighton can stay disciplined enough, I think sometimes what's interesting is that Brighton, if they're pressed very hard, they can be forced into mistakes, and then they can be hit on the counter-attack or you know, press out the pitch. But I feel if they can be precise, then I do think they have enough quality to beat Palace, and hopefully they can. Obviously, they were robbed last season with that terrible decision for the purposes of Stupinian chalked off. So hopefully they can right the wrongs from that and beat them at Selhurst Park.
Cool, brilliant. And Sam, how do you see it going? And how are the Seagulls stacked for this game with injury wise and that?
Yeah, so Joel Veltman, it looks like he's going to be out for this game. Obviously, we already know that Ansu Fati, Gideon Ciso, Lamptey are all still out. But Danny Welbeck did return against Arsenal, and that was a real boost to have him back, because they definitely missed him. I think Evan Ferguson has obviously had some injury problems and has not been firing on all cylinders. So having Danny Welbeck with a bit of experience back, a different option, because they've not really had that at all. Obviously, Joao Pedro has obviously played a little bit deeper in games and has been his most prolific in Europe. But I think having him back is a real boost, 100%. And hopefully, as Richie said, hopefully they can get the win over Palace and right the wrongs from last season. And Palace, as you mentioned, will be coming into the game on a high, having come from 2 goals down to get a point at the Etihad, which is a brilliant result for anyone, let alone Crystal Palace, really. So they're definitely going to be on a high, and will be confident at home against Brighton. And obviously, with all the extra emotions and the extra drive and passion that comes with this game, you can never really say anyone's favourites, really. I think it's always difficult to say a team's favourites in a rivalry like this. So, yeah, hopefully Brighton can get the job done. And but one thing from history that you would put in Brighton's favour is they always seem to bounce back after a defeat. They always seem to put it behind them really quickly and, get a win that's vital to their progression in the season. So hopefully they can get it done against Palace.
Yeah, Harty, you're itching to say something.
No. I'm sadly, I've just realised what the time is. I've got to go to a funeral. So I think we're going to win 3-0. I'd just like to wish you all a Merry Christmas, you three boys. Thank all the readers for buying the papers and thank all the people for watching the websites and reading online. But I'm giving it to you now. Palace 0, Brighton 3. See you next year, boys. Take care.
Merry Christmas. Cheers, Harty.
Cheers, Harty.
Cheers. Sam, what's your score prediction?
Score prediction: 2-1 Brighton. They don't keep clean sheets in the Premier League, and I can't see that changing.
No,
on Thursday. But I think they'll win 2-1.
Richie,
agreed. 2-1 win.
2-1 win. I'm going to complete that. A 2-1. I might go 3-1. Why not? Just to be positive. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. You can catch up with all the sports news, everything we've covered and talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk. You can watch more excellent videos on shotstv.com and Freeview channel 276. And you can also see us if you're watching us on Latest TV, lots of extra stuff on Latest TV. Thanks a lot and Merry Christmas, everyone.